Straight into the political corner now. Well, all roads lead to Zambia. Before his meeting with Israeli President Isaac Herzog, the Zambian president made time for the important encounter of his visit here in Israel, meeting our very own I-24 News' senior diplomatic correspondent Owen Alterman to discuss bilateral ties, the connection of the Jewish state to Africa, and where the world is heading. Let's take a look.
Good evening from Jerusalem. I just came out of the King David Hotel, which you can see behind me, where I interviewed the president of Zambia, Hakainde Hichilema. Now, Zambia is a country of about 20 million people in southern Africa, just north of South Africa, although it doesn't border South Africa, and to the south of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And Hichilema, well, he is a self-made multi-millionaire, a self-described cattle boy who made it big, now owns major companies in a number of sectors in his country, and after 5 unsuccessful tries, got elected the president of Zambia 2 years ago in 2021. At any rate, he's here on a visit to Jerusalem, and I asked him why Israel and relations with Israel and the relationship with Israel are so important to Zambia and to him.
We have to work with others, networking, others that have done many things over many years. And we can leverage on the things that they've done in order to basically have mutual benefits. In this case, what Israel has done for itself, the strides it's made in the economy, innovation, for example, technology, in that space, they've done a lot. This country has done a lot. So for us, we would like to leapfrog, to work with Israel, to work with industry here, and to be able to basically have relationships that will deliver value for Israel, Israeli people, for Zambia and the Zambian people. And that's in many areas. Agriculture, we're very, very lucky to have water in our country, fresh water. We're lucky to have basically good soils, and indeed, but we're not producing enough. When we produce at low levels of productivity. Just imagine what that will mean to our overall production. Productivity goes up. But to do that, it's not just the technology we need. We need basically to irrigate. So we need to water harvest. There's a lot of expertise and know-how here. Another example to give you, Zambia is endowed with critical minerals. Electric vehicle, industry of the future, anchored on copper, cobalt, nickel, manganese, lithium-based minerals. We have those minerals. But we need to work with others with the capital, others with the technology, and we bring our own resource envelope, and we deliver value for Zambia, for Israel, for Africa, for the world.
Now, you can hear in that answer the focus on the economy and on economic development, a thread that ran throughout our interview, of course, as you heard there, when discussing relations with Israel, but also when we discussed relations with China, which I raised. Now, China is a huge issue in Zambia. A huge amount of Chinese inward investment has come in, and for that reason, a huge amount of debt that Zambia owes the Chinese. So much debt that it had put a huge weight on Zambia's economy, on its finances, and on its path to development. And such a huge weight that Zambia just a month ago entered into a landmark debt restructuring deal to try to lessen that weight, primarily with China, but by the way, also with others, including Israel. At any rate, I asked President Hichilema what Zambia's experience maneuvering between the West on one hand and China on the other hand, well, what that experience can teach other countries faced with a similar dilemma.
We inherited a debt portfolio which was choking our economy, our growth. Our headroom was shrunk terribly. In fact, there was no headroom, because the debt mountain was beyond one which we could sustain in terms of debt service. Forget about amortization. So it was like a python crippling our necks, our ribs, our legs. And we needed to untangle the country, the economy from this. And we had to deal with China, we had to deal with America, we had to deal with France, we had to deal with Israel, we had to deal with everybody. With everybody. And we were never going to approach this issue from an angle of negativity, but one of positivity, looking for a solution.
And finally, the issue of democratic backsliding. Now, I think by all accounts, under President Hichilema's predecessor, Zambia had been in the process of democratic backsliding. And even now, there's plenty of criticism of President Hichilema's record, whether in the U.S. State Department's latest human rights report, the report by the non-governmental organization Freedom House, by human rights organizations, and by others. But at the same time, there's also some sense of optimism that President Hichilema is taking the country in a different direction and maybe reversing some of that backsliding. I asked President Hichilema what Zambia's experience on this issue might have to teach other countries facing similar problems. He chose to focus his answer, in large part, on the issue of military coups, of course, very much in the news, given the situation far to the northwest of Zambia, up in Niger.
And I think we must all condemn military coups. I want to be specific on our continent, Africa. But it does affect other parts of the world. We get affected by the conflict in other parts of the world. We know it, don't we? So we need a world anchored on countries that are stable, regions that are stable, continents that are stable, so we can focus on, with peace, security, stability, we can focus on the economic and social development story. That's my message. But also, patience is important. Let me use my own example. I went to elections many times. Even when our party felt that our election was not handled properly, we never ever thought of using unorthodox means of assuming public office. We always said we'll push for free, fair, credible elections. And when the elections are free, fair, credible, the choice of the people prevails.
So here, another African country and another African president trying to strengthen their relationships with Israel, and a country that is facing a lot of global issues common to it and many others around the world. Owen Alterman, I-24 News, in Jerusalem.